The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the patient experience cycle, the model behind our organization. We will talk about the history of the model from the beginning until present time, why it works, and what it means to each one of us. When we started Riverpark, the goal was to create a practice that provides the most enjoyable dental experience. When you look at the structure of a dental practice, you will notice a very vertical hierarchical structure. The dentist on the top, underneath them an office manager, and then the rest of the staff, where the bigger practices also have coordinators in areas of patient's hygiene and treatment, and then you have the patient on the bottom. The patient experience is more reminiscent of an assembly line. Employees have very specific positions with little or no overlap, working in silos. Clearly marked differences between the business front and the clinical back, and a patient who is passed around from one station to another. Every patient is being passed. There is a potential risk for a communication breakdown. If there is ever a problem, the patient is left not knowing who to address, and this often leads to attrition. There is no question dentistry has evolved in the last century, but the actual structure of the business model, the hierarchy, and the positions have not. In fact, the major changes occurred a long time ago. The first one when the profession of a barber surgeon split into dentists and barbers in the 18th century. And then another change to the business model occurred with the introduction of a hygienist over 100 years ago. In 2009, we thought to ourselves, there has to be a more effective, a more updated business model that would fit the realities of today's dental practice. So, we came up with this one and called it the patient care specialist model. In our model, the patient is in the middle, and the patient care specialist, a well-rounded individual who acts as a relationship manager and works with the dentist to develop a unique individual solution to patients' needs. It minimizes the number of patient sees, and which turn allows them to build more in-depth relationship. The assembly line where the patient is passed around is replaced with one that is focused on relationship building and attending to our patient's needs. There is no more practice manager who supervises and micromanages. The role of the boss is to provide support, guidance, and encouragement so that the dentist and the patient care specialist can deliver the best patient care to their patients. In order to succeed, we also need team members who understand the model and are on board. We look for people who are well educated, knowledgeable, compassionate to patients' needs, great problem solvers, who are able to prioritize and delegate tasks, who take initiative, are focused in constraint improvement, and also know how to have fun. We believe the patient care specialist model creates happier employees. It allows people for more motivating work, higher compensation, greater flexibility to take time off, and since the practice is successful and growing, most importantly, job security. Career security means that for whatever reason you should leave, you will have the transferable skills to succeed in another industry. In our original model, a patient care specialist was someone with a clinical background who could do everything in the practice, from checking the patient in, to assisting, treatment presentation, pouring trays, third-party financing, door-to-door marketing, marketing at beauty pageant contests, order supplies, and even how to figure out with printer issues. Estelle was one of our 2 original PCS, so she can tell you all about this. Nora was the only dentist, hygienist, and treatment presenter. This model worked very well. Once we started to hire hygienists, they too became PCS. In fact, the hygienist took the front stage in the relationship with the patients. This is when Gemma came along and with Nora really revolutionized the PCS model. We were booming and everyone was wondering what we were doing to get this many patients every month. Growth brought increased needs for administration, and by 2011, we started to hire people who did not necessarily have a dental background. With the arrival of Michelle, we now had a proper business admin training team, and the patient care specialist now became more of a business administration role. We were always cautious to ensure that we didn't fall victims to the artificial barrier between the front and the back that exists in traditional practice settings. It didn't take anything away from dental assistants and hygienists. They were still able to build strong relationships with patients and help in different areas, but it did allow them to focus more on becoming experts in their specific clinical areas. By 2013, the practice expanded to the point that we could keep all of our services in-house. We had multiple dentists, a large team, and over 100 new patients a month. But at that same time, the same model that got us here now became too complex to manage. We tried to hold on to our roots and restructure the model of having specific teams around each area of dentistry, but that created confusion and chaos. There came a point where each business plateaued and we were doomed for failure. In 2016, the patient care specialist model was replaced by the patient experience cycle. This cycle and structure provides the ultimate patient experience. It takes the concepts and the best parts of our patient care specialist model and combines it with the realities of a busy practice. I will first explain the model and then discuss how it is achieved. In this diagram to the right, you will see a circle full of arrows with a smiling lady in the middle, the patient. It encompasses all the functions within a dental practice, but not an assembly line, but as close integrated circuits. These arrows represent the patient's experience from the time they walk into the practice until the time they leave. Here's how the patient cycle works. It starts with a green arrow, where a stranger contacts the office. If the PCS does a great job in that initial contact, the person will come in. Once they are here, it is up to the team to make the visitor feel welcome so that he or she decides to move forward, whether it's a consult, COE, or another type of examination. When the person has a good experience during the diagnostic stage, we can turn them into a patient. In the blue area, we have the opportunity to present the treatment to the patient. If we do a good job, we are able to address their concerns about both the clinical and financial aspects of their treatment. The patient will then proceed with the treatment. The purple part is the actual clinical experience. If you think about it, the entire patient experience, clinical is only one little segment of our entire experience. Nevertheless, this is a very critical part and needs to be done very well. Once the patient leaves, there is a checkout, where the patient pays and makes the next appointment. The last section deals with everything between the appointments and the general communication with the patient. If we do well with this, the patient will come back and the cycle continues. If one of these areas fail, the circuit breaks and the patient can fall out and the cycle includes the patient. Here's the same cycle again in greater detail. These 7 sections are the same sections as the last slide. The box around represents the subcomponents of each cycle. We will go into each and greater one of these in detail. On the bottom, the patient experience cycle are the support functions. The support functions are the areas that don't directly deal with the patient but are essential, and without them, the patient experience cycle cannot function properly. Every function within the dental practice can be captured in this model. The wiki, which I will address in a separate video, is organized according to this model. Once you understand this model, you'll be able to navigate through wiki. Let's talk about each of the sections in greater detail. First, we look at the first area of the patient experience cycle, the patient contact, which amazes me how dentists don't mind spending tens of thousands of dollars a month just to get people to contact the office. In fact, the acquisition cost per patient in major cities like Toronto, Calgary, or Vancouver surpasses $300 or even $400, which amazes me that these dentists who don't mind spending all this money to get a patient will cheapen out on getting an inexperienced person answering the phone. That initial communication with the patient is so critical. It will make or break a practice. The second component of patient contact is the scheduling. The person having the initial contact with the patient must know where to schedule the patient, with which provider, and for how long. Great scheduling will improve the profitability of the practice and help ensure the dentists are enjoying their work and not running behind. The second section is patient reception. Patient reception deals with the initial experience created when a patient enters the premises of the practice. There are 3 components. The first one's pretty simple. Make the practice welcoming and friendly. The second, the patient check-in. Make sure you know ahead of time who the patient is that's coming in. Know their name, their likes, their dislikes. There is nothing worse than for a patient who has sunk in thousands of dollars over a decade at your practice to come into the front desk to be asked, "Have you been here before?" You can spend tens of thousands of dollars on the nicest waterfalls, fish tanks, marble floors, and reclining chairs. But all of it will go to waste if you feel that you are so insignificant to the business that the person greeting you doesn't even know who you are. Even though your name is on the schedule, with the click of a button, he or she can get all the information that he or she needs to at least pretend she knows you. The third one is patient tours. Once we were in a meeting in Winnipeg discussing about patient experience, when we asked the team to share a story, she said that one of the patients had come in and asked for a tour of the office. She did say this laughing. What was going through her mind? I said, this is a dental office, not a museum. The rest of the team agreed. However, patient tour is the opportunity for you to showcase your practice. It is an opportunity for you to highlight your differences, your unique value, and convince the patient or provide verification that they have made the right choice to choose your practice over dozens in the area. So if you can't be excited about your own practice, why do you expect your patients to be so excited that will refer you to their family and friends? Once you've done a great job on the patient reception, the next step is diagnosis. There are 4 to 6 types of diagnosis. The first one, the complimentary consult, which we generally recommend for any dentist who wants to grow their practice. Although it is not a diagnosis in the chair, you're providing information about their needs. This is an opportunity for you to win your patient over. Their emergency exam, a specific COE, the EPCOE, the 5-year COE, the continuing care, formerly known as recall or recare. We all know what these appointments are, but the question is, are we willing to do the minimum necessary to get through quickly as possible to increase the billings? Are we taking advantage of the opportunities that these exams present? Whether you're using these exams to build relationships and trust the patient, or you're just taking the time to discuss the need for their treatment, or try to sell them on an elective cosmetic procedure because it will help them, or because their benefits will pay for it, or even all of the above. The point we're really trying to drive home is that there are tremendous opportunities for the patient and the dentist to connect and build a relationship and increase your billings. And a lot of dentists don't see it. We see so many dentists unhappy with the receptionist that they have a lot of white space in their schedule. And then the same dentist complains the next day that they have an unprofitable day because they have 10 consults/recalls/COEs. Guess what? The exams are not meant to be profitable. It is your responsibility, doctor, to win the patient's trust. If you're unable to provide a great experience during these exams and show the patients that they should get a procedure done, then you're putting your receptionist to an almost impossible task to keep your schedule full. These exams, the patient needs to be wowed with the experience, the knowledge, and the professionalism of the dentist and the team. Only then will you be able to book a treatment. If the examination part is done well, we move on to the next part, treatment planning. We put a lot of emphasis on treatment presentation, preparing the actual treatment, the visuals, the modules, videos, etc., to ensure the patient both understands and enjoys the presentation. That increases the chances of them agreeing to the treatment. Next is the benefit management. The days where the receptionist says, "This is between you and your insurance," are over. You are either an assignment practice or you are not, and you make it really easy for the patient by helping them with their benefits. Whether you are on assignment or not, you will need to become an expert in the areas of dental benefits. The last part is treatment financing. There are so many options, including making it tax deductible for small business owners. The bottom line is finances are preventing patients from accepting treatments There are options that most dental offices either don't do or don't want to spend the time to learn about. And last but not least, treatment follow-up. Practices often do all the work, but then don't follow up with the patients, and this things through the cracks. Now, the clinical component. This is an area, as the name suggests, focused on the dental and hygiene knowledge. We talk about the protocols for assisting and how we develop an effective and profitable hygiene program. On the dental assisting end, we are not reteaching dental assisting. What we are focused on is the interaction between the patient and the team members to ensure that things are running smooth so that the patient experience is optimized. For those with clinical background, dental, hygiene, or assisting, this is generally a review. For others, a crash course on clinical dentistry so that you're familiar with the key terms and can answer some of the most common clinical questions. This seems like the most straightforward process, but it is not. The handoff between clinical and the admin team isn't as smooth as it should be. During the checkout, any concerns or problems need to be addressed. The patient must leave happy, knowing that any issues have been resolved, dental benefit coverage, and the fees are consistent with what was agreed. We call the people who check them goalies. Whether you like soccer or hockey, the goalie is the last person who can prevent the goal from being scored. The analogy is that the patient who leaves unhappy is a goal scored against you. If the patient had a bad experience, this is the last opportunity for you to make it better. No patient can leave the practice unhappy. We're not going to go through the mathematics of patient value at this time, but a lost patient is almost in all cases a greater loss than what the patient has paid. We are not saying that you should let patients take advantage, and some patients we simply don't want to keep. What I'm saying is that we must ensure that we've done absolutely everything possible to make the patient happy, and that this is something many practices do poorly. Another big misconception is that if the patient is asked at checkout how their experience was, and they say it was okay, it does not mean that you've done a good job. It means you've failed. You failed to wow the patient. The patient might or might not come back. But if they are not wowed to the point that they want to tell their friends and family about you, this is your last chance to make it up. The last part deals with everything that takes place in the practice between when the patient leaves and their next appointment. This involves the post-op calls and the little details that patients appreciate, from the birthday calls to Christmas cards to get well fruit trays, funeral flowers, little wedding gifts, sponsors, anything that shows our appreciation for the patients. The little things to show that we care can take you very far. It also involves following up with the patients on matters that are important for them, dealing with problems, whether during their appointment or anything that deals with pain, fear, or money. Confirmation and reminders ensure that we don't let any patients slip through the cracks, and at the same time, we are not harassing them with too many calls. This area also deals with patient communication, psychology, and managing their expectations. If we do not do these areas great, the circle is closed and the practice starts again with the patient contact. If we do all of these areas great, we have a closed circuit and the patient stays at the practice. If one of these areas fails, the circle can break and the patient is at risk of falling out of the practice. In order to deliver that experience, we need to have a strong support staff. Let's move over to these functions. There are 12 support functions, 9 business, and 3 clinical. Let's start with strategy. Strategy asks a simple but very important question. Why will a person choose our practice with so many practices around? Why will they choose us? Marketing deals with how we do bring in the right patients to our practice and ensure that they stay, pay, and refer. Operations is a broad area of protocols and procedures, anything from patient forms to cash box protocols, referrals, chart audits, all designed to make the operational flow of the practice more ideal so that the patient experience can be delivered more effectively. Human resource is the most expensive, difficult, and complicated of the support functions. It is not one that can be delegated. It is the most misunderstood by dentists. We are fortunate to have the greatest people. Great people do not automatically translate to a great team. Nobody doubts the values of a great cohesive team. The problem is that there is no quick fix. No program out there that'll get it done. Dentists are unaware how difficult and time-consuming this is and are not willing to make an investment in this area. And the problem will not get any better until there is a fundamental switch in the way that employees are seen in a dental practice. Dentists see HR as a cost, the same way as marketing or supplies. Costs, by definition, are like nails. They need to be constantly clipped. And I'm all about saving money, but the employees at a dental practice cannot be seen as the same way as employees in a manufacturing or retail environment. In a dental practice, a personal relationship is greater than in any other business. What other industry or service is there that every human being needs every year, regardless of their health, social status, ethnicity, or age? It is also a service that combines three negative items: fear, high costs, and pain. There is no other service that has the characteristics of dentistry. It is all about people. Why I just mentioned is nothing new. I do not think that there is a dentist in this country who would be awakened by this revelation. Knowing this amazes me, how dentists are willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars into marketing to bring patients into practice, but will nickel and dime the employees if they are the ones that make or break the practice. The goal of HR is to set the right individuals on the team and to align each individual's goals with our organizational goals. Then, to provide an environment where the team members will receive the support and training needed to reach their individual goals, whether it's growth, money, job security, flexibility, enjoyment, or any other combination. It is an area much easier said than done and is what is by far the most sophisticated and complex support area. Financial management is anything to do with money. Fees, financial policies, dealing with accounts receivable, third-party financing, etc. Supply chain, anything with ordering and bringing equipment, products, and supplies. Technology, any technology that we use. Computers, x-rays, ClearDent, Recall Max, etc. Legal. This deals with the legal structure of the company, shareholders, lease agreements, contracts, etc. It is here because this is a supporting function, but no one that you have to study or be tested on. Dental consulting. This is the support and the role dental strategy plays in the practice, not something that you'll be tested on. Clinical support, as the name suggests, are the clinical functions that run a practice. Cleaning and sterilization of instruments as well as general maintenance. Health and safety, the procedures and protocols helping to ensure that we operate healthy in a safe manner. And lastly, lab, encompassing the work done in the in-house and commercial lab. As you can see, the current model is a deviation from the original one. As the dental industry, the practice, and we have individuals evolved, so will this model. I don't expect to memorize it. It's important that you understand it though. It combines the best of the traditional patient care specialist model and the needs of today's and tomorrow's patients. How it is impossible for anyone to perform the original role of a PCS as we did in 2009. However, in our own ways, whether you're a dentist, hygienist, dental assistant, the person working in the lab, sterilization, a co-op student, you need to think that you are a patient care specialist in your own way. You are there to do your part to provide the ultimate patient care. Whether you have been in the industry for 20 years or just 20 days, whether this is something that you want to do for the next 40 years, this is just a part-time job, a stepping stone to something else, or this is something that you are doing temporarily while you're in school. You are here right now because you're an important member of this team. Your role and your position is embedded in one of these colorful shapes. All of you are different, and no two positions are the same. But all of you and the work you do is important to the success of the closed circuit. You might think that you're just a co-op student, a paper pusher who prints out the forms. But if the form is not ready from the patient it does come in, it shows we are not ready. The patient is seen late, and it can throw off the entire schedule. The dentist has to rush, creating a bad experience, and ultimately, we could lose the patient. We can all come up with many examples to illustrate this point. The bottom line is that everyone has an important role somewhere in this diagram. Some team members' roles are more specific and can be limited to one area, while others have many roles spread across many shapes. But everyone's role is important, and everyone's success is interdependent with others. If you do your job well, it will then help others be more successful at their task. Their success will make it easier on you. Only then can we start talking about the meaning of a true cohesive team.